I'm gonna close this.
Good morning. Welcome to Imagine Your Life with Jenny Lynn McKinnon. I am so grateful that you're here joining me there this morning. Today, I'm going to be talking about the theory of the mind, how our mind works, how the subconscious works, the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And you'll see that today my graphs are not what I wanted them to be, but you will see that anyone can do this. And today's show is going to be imperfectly perfect. So I am so grateful that you're joining me today. Now, the theory of the mind begins, we have a subconscious mind and we have our conscious mind. And our subconscious mind is about 90% of our mind, and our conscious mind is only about 10% or less. Scientists are a little bit off on the exact numbers between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, but within our mind, in our brain, things are divided up. And I'm going to show you this. I've kind of driven this out, and okay, so here's my chart. And of course, to be able to do this, I'm going to move it up really slow. And then I disappear. See, I told you today is going to be a learning experience. I tried to do this through screen share and on the whiteboard, and had a little bit of a difficult time with that. And so we're going to change things up just a little bit. And with my backgrounds, thank you very, very much for your patience with me this morning. As I figure out how to cancel my background. Mommy, I am so grateful that you've joined me this morning. And if you missed the introduction, today is about being imperfectly perfect, because the things that what I wanted to share is not working. And I know that you do this a lot. That's not what I wanted. Well, I'm wasting a lot of time on my background. So we're going to go through this. So with the theory of the mind, we have our subconscious mind and we have our conscious mind. Our conscious mind is 10% or less of our brain. And in that, we have, I think of the subconscious as our five senses. So we have what everything that we smell, taste, touch, feel, hear. That's our conscious mind, that logical side of the brain. And as things are brought into our logical side of the brain and our conscious mind, then as we sleep, things get filtered into our subconscious mind. Well, our subconscious mind is everything else. Now, our conscious mind, scientists have found that we have about approximately 2,000 neuron cells that contain the conscious mind, that logical side of the brain. And on the other side of our subconscious mind, we have over 4 billion, and it may be even more. Scientists have compared it to one side consciously that we have 2,000 neuron cells that fire every second in our conscious mind, and we have over 4 billion that fire every second in our subconscious mind. And in our subconscious mind, there are some laws that govern our subconscious brain. I'm skipping around a little bit in my thoughts and ideas, and my apologies. This is pretty rough this morning as things aren't, like I mentioned, not going as smoothly as I would have liked. And maybe that's part of my preparation, definitely part of my lack of technology and not using my technology to my best advantage this morning. But scientists have found that we have some compared like one neuron cell, that cell that fires every second, to 1 million cells that fire every second. It's been compared to the neuron activity of a little tiny ant to a full-blown elephant. Now, as I explain the theory of the mind and get into hypnosis and hypnotherapy, which I am a certified hypnotist and a certified instructor of hypnotism, which is why I am imperfectly perfect today. And I'm giving you hope for those of you that are watching this to let you know that you can do this too. Okay, now we got that out of the way. So how does the programming of this subconscious brain occur? Well, from the time that we're 3 months, 3.5 months conception in our mother's womb, soon as that little brain is able to think and to start to be developed enough that we're starting to have the emotion center of the brain. From that 3.5 months conception, we begin picking up our core beliefs about ourselves, those very beginning imprints that then govern the whole rest of our lives. So from that point up until we're about 7, 8 years old, and sometimes even 9, 10, 11 years old, depending on the development of the child, everything that that child experiences is recognized as truth. Now, because that is recognized as truth and there's no filter there, they're living in a hypnotic state. That's why you can tell a child that, oh my goodness, if there's leprechauns and the leprechauns have been here and they put some magic fairy dust in your drink. So if you drink this green punch, the bottom of your foot is going to turn green and they will believe you. How do I know? because this happened to my little 5-year-old daughter. She'd gone to kindergarten. It was St. Patrick's Day, and the teacher read this cute little story about leprechauns and limericks and St. Patrick's Day. And then we had a St. Patrick's Day party. And in this little story, the fairies had painted the punch. They had put fairy dust in their drinks. And in the story, when you drank the punch, then your foot would turn green, and that meant that you had magical powers. Well, the teacher had painted the bottom of her foot green. And so as the students then were drinking their punch, and she shares this little story, she shows them her foot, that, look, this is what happened to me. Well, I tell you, for weeks, my daughter was so nervous and would check her feet every day to see if her foot had turned green and if she had magical powers. Because you see, that brings me to another law of the subconscious, which is that the subconscious cannot and does not recognize negatives. It doesn't does not know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. And if you're not sure about that, we're going to just do the lemon experiment. And if let's just imagine that I have a lemon in my hand, and I cut that lemon, and I'm going to share it with you through the screen. And you take that lemon, you lick the lemon. Ooh, feel all of the yummy goodness from the lemon, and my jaw goes numb, and I just want a lemon for breakfast. Oh, or maybe I don't. But the reality is, my body's responding as if, but there is no lemon here. This is a pretend. This is not real. But my body, my brain, does not know the difference, and so it reacts as if it's real, which is one of the main reasons that hypnotherapy and hypnosis works so well, because we can trick the mind to thinking that what we do want to create, what we do want, is real. And we can even go into the past, and we can reframe events in the instance of trauma and PTSD as we look at it from a different perspective, and we begin to tell ourselves a new story. Now I'm going to get back to my theory of the mind, because when we're, like I said, from the time of conception to about 8 and 9 years old, we are, I just had a pop-up on my screen. I apologize. I had to get rid of that. We have these core beliefs that we grab hold of, right? Well, the programming of that small child, like, who's responsible for that programming? And the mind is just like a blank computer. And when we're born, it's just a blank computer. And just like that blank computer, it has to have be programmed. Well, the programmers of the mind are all of the authority figures, in our lives. So that's our parents, grandparents. I hope so, because I'm a grandparent now. And I'm doing some programming with my grandchild. That she's loved and wanted and amazing and beautiful. Not all experiences are like that. So this programming begins, and the programmers are parents, grandparents, siblings, teachers, peers, the TV, and now add phones and social media, all of the things that our kids are exposed to. And as parents, I know we work hard to protect them, but sometimes we don't. And if there were perfect programmers, then we could expect a perfect program as we grow. But because they're part of this perfect program called life, is that there is no perfect programmer. and there's no perfect programs, then our imperfect programming perfectly sets us up for our life experiences. So therefore, we're just all imperfectly perfect and a work in progress, correct? Right, because you can do this too. Now, we get this program started, and once there's a program that is started in the subconscious mind, then we act out according to our programming. And I'm going to give you an example of this. Let's say there's a little child, little toddler that is just beginning to walk, and they have a glass of milk in their hand. Well, what do? They trip and they spill the milk. And a programmer, the authority figure in that child's life, which is everybody bigger than that child, this authority figure says to that child, "My goodness, you just spilled the milk. You are so clumsy." Now we have a program started of "I am clumsy." And because we act out according to our programming, now we're going to be much more likely to spill the milk the next time that we have a glass of milk in our hand, because we believe that that is what we are supposed to do, is spill the milk. Then we spill the milk again, and once more we get more programming that comes in that says, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you spilled the milk. You are so slow. You just are so clumsy, and you just spill the milk." So now we believe that we're slow, we believe that we're clumsy, that we always spill the milk. So it must be right because I always spill the milk. And then we act out. We're slow and we're clumsy. And then we go to school, or we go into preschool even, or nursery. I mean, these things happen at very young ages. And one of our peers says to us, "Oh my gosh, you're so stupid. You're so stupid. You're so dumb." So now we have a program of "I am stupid. I am dumb." And then we act out according to our programming, which then brings us back more input, which reinforces our core belief of, "Yeah, I guess I really am clumsy. I guess I really can't do anything right. I guess I'm just stupid. I guess I'm just fat. I guess I'm just bad." Now, bad is one that comes up a lot, especially in my work with addictions and helping people get over their addictions of all different kinds. Everything from the most mild of food to meth, heroin, crack, cocaine. Anyway, I feel like I've worked with a lot of addictions now, much smarter than I used to be. And this bad, once we believe that, "Oh my gosh, I'm bad," then we act out as if we're bad. And that brings me to shame, because when we feel shamed, and the difference between feeling bad and shame, like bad is I did something bad. I guess it's guilt and I did something bad. Whereas shame is like, I am bad. Like this internal core that we just believe that there's nothing good in us. We're just bad. And we're here on this life to be the bad person. And so we act out that way. And then we develop this complex and we try to do better. We try to reform. But when that shame and that feeling of "I am bad" continues to surface, then we continue to act out. Now, the good news in all of this is that unlike most of like the animal kingdom, and what makes us different is that we can change our programming through our logical thinking. A dog can't think through things in a logical manner. My horse is just like a giant 3-year-old, doesn't think logically at all. What makes humans different is that we do have the power and the control to take hold of our logical mind and then start to reprogram our subconscious. Because the subconscious mind, a law of the subconscious mind, is that it only says yes. It only says yes to whatever we think, whatever we speak. It only says yes and agrees with us. So it's like having a genie in your pocket that you pull out every time when you're speaking, and then it goes to work to create and make it so whatever we just spoke. So that's what we call the law of manifestation. And we'll be talking a lot more about that in more shows. But today, I want to bring it back to just focusing on the theory of the mind. I want you to really understand how our programming works. Now, we can change our programming. How do we change our programming? The first thing is we have to go into our mind, we become aware. We have to acknowledge, where did this come from? Why do I feel this way? What is truth about this experience? And that's where hypnotherapy becomes so important. And with hypnosis, you can really get into the mind. Now, meditation, you can do a lot of internal work. Reading is a form of hypnosis. For me, I had in my own story, when I was 20 years old and I was a basket case and an emotional mess, I didn't know about hypnotherapy. I didn't know about hypnosis. I didn't know that there were these other skills. So I turned to other modalities. I turned to books and I read a ton of books. Books are very cathartic. Books are it's a very hypnotic experience in reprogramming your mind. So I encourage you to read good books. But we begin to change our programming through what we're listening to, how we read, and we become aware and acknowledge as we open up our mind to, why do I have this PTSD moment? How come I'm 45 years old and I react as if I'm a 3-year-old and I fly off the handle and I can't control my emotions? Well, it's because we're going back to our programming. Why are you not getting what you want in your life? Well, there's a program running that says maybe you don't deserve that. And if there's how come you're 100 pounds overweight or even 50 pounds overweight or even 10 pounds? That maybe you've tried to lose that same 10 pounds like 50 times, like me. So as we begin to delve into the mind, recognize and acknowledge our faulty programming, then because the subconscious mind only says yes to whatever we think or speak, we can begin to reprogram our mind. And as we reprogram our mind, then we can insert truth. Now, if we take the example of this little child, this little toddler that has a glass of milk that they spilled, well, let's look at and identify whose fault was it really? If a little toddler has an open glass of milk in their hand and they trip and they spill the milk, whose fault is it? I can guarantee it's not that child's fault. It's whoever gave them the milk and didn't put a lid on the milk, didn't take care of them properly. Let's put blame where blame is due, and then we can unravel the truth. Is it true that that child's clumsy? No. Is it true that they're stupid? No. That they're slow? No. That they're bad? No. Those are lies, but they become the lies that we believed ever since then. And so we want to discover what is truth, reprogram with truth, and mirror work is one of the best ways that you can, once you've started a new neurological pathway in your mind, you have to reinforce that pathway. And mirror work, just looking in the mirror and saying, oh my gosh, you are beautiful. The truth is that you are loved, that you are good. And then start to tell yourself all the examples of all the good things that you've done in your life. If you're here watching the show, you are a good person. And begin to tell yourself and reinforce all of those good patterns and start new programming. Because the subconscious mind, one, it only says yes. There's no judgment in the subconscious mind. It just accepts everything as truth. The subconscious does not recognize negatives. And to give you an example of that, I want you, whatever you do, please do not think about the pink elephant that just is in my driveway, or the pink Ferrari, or if for some it might be red. But the brain can't help but think about that pink elephant because it goes to the noun, it goes to the picture, and we get what we get what we picture, we get what we're programmed, not what we want, but what we're programmed. Now, what makes hypnosis work is because the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So, as I imagine with effort, and if I imagine it enough, what I do want in my life, where I do want to be, how I do want to feel, then I will start to create that in my reality. And we call that the law of manifestation. The one other thing that I really want to say, you know, when we're a child and there's domestic violence, like in the example of the milk, when they spill the milk, if that parent or authority figure adds violence to the event and says, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you, blah, 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 blah." I'm not going to swear on this channel. But the more violence that that child experiences around the event causes that neural pathway around that core belief, whatever they're believing about themselves at that time, to grow 2,500 times more than if you just okay, you spilled the milk, let's clean up the milk. We made a mistake. And that is why it's like it becomes that neural pathway around I am bad, I am shame, I am stupid, I'm fat, becomes almost like cemented in our brain. And so then it becomes much more difficult. That's why we become then adults and we have to continually chisel away at that belief system. With hypnotherapy, it accelerates the growth because on the positive side, if you put if you're doing your affirmations in your mirror, and when you're doing affirmations that are based on truth, when you know that I really am a good person, and you look in the mirror and you get excited and you add emotion and you make it really big, and oh my gosh, I'm going to have a great day today. Life is so good. I am so good. I'm doing great things in life. And you see that in the mirror. Guess what? This new neural pathway then grows 2,500 times faster than if you just say, "Oh, you're a good person." 2,500 times faster on the positive because it matches the negative and it has to balance it out. So, my tip for you today is to harness the powers of your own subconscious mind and remember that you are amazing, that you're doing beautiful things, that you have a mission, a purpose, a plan that is unique to you. And I appreciate you being on this show this morning. I'm going to now stop the recording and open it up for discussion.